My husband gave my best friend a diamond bracelet for her birthday. I know because I found the receipt folded inside his jacket pocket. $4,200. For my birthday, 3 weeks earlier, he gave me a blender. My name is Rachel. I am 38 years old, and for 15 years I was married to a man named Daniel, who everyone in our town described the same way. Charming, hardworking, a great guy. And for 14 of those 15 years, I would have agreed with them. We met in college in Ohio. He was loud and funny and full of plans. I was the quiet one who actually knew how to make plans work. When we got married, my father did something I will never forget. He took out a loan against his own retirement and handed Daniel $80,000 to start his landscaping company. My father said, "Take care of my daughter, and this will take care of both of you." Daniel cried that day. He hugged my father and swore on his life. The company grew, Green Ridge Landscaping. Within 10 years, we had 6 trucks, 22 employees, and contracts with half the office parks in the county. Daniel was the face of it. He shook the hands, he told the jokes, he closed the deals. But here is what nobody in town knew. I ran everything else. Every invoice, every payroll, every tax filing, every bank account. For 15 years, every single dollar that moved through that company moved through my hands first. Daniel used to laugh about it at parties. He would put his arm around me and say, "I am the engine, she's the steering wheel." He should have paid more attention to who was holding the wheel. We never had children. We tried for years, and it just never happened. Somewhere in that heartbreak, my best friend Chloe became like family. She lived 4 houses down, Sunday dinners at our place, vacations together with her husband Mark. She held my hand in the hospital waiting room after my second miscarriage. She was the sister I never had. So when I tell you what I found, understand this. I did not lose one person that autumn. I lost the 2 people I trusted most in this world on the same afternoon, holding the same receipt. It started small, the way these things always do. That spring, Daniel got a new phone and a new password. He said the company needed better security. He started keeping the phone face down on the table, taking calls in the driveway, standing by his truck in the cold. Then came the late nights. "Big commercial contract," he said, "the Henderson project. Site visits that ran past 10. I believed him because the Henderson project was real. I was the one processing its invoices. But numbers do not lie to me. Numbers have never lied to me. In June, I noticed a fuel charge from a gas station 40 miles north of the Henderson site. Then a dinner receipt from a steakhouse in Columbus on a night he told me he was eating pizza with the crew. Then a company card charge from a hotel. One night, king room. I told myself there were explanations. I actually invented them for him, lying awake at 2 in the morning, building excuses for a man who was asleep beside me, smelling like a perfume I did not own. And Chloe. Chloe started acting strange around the same time. She stopped coming to Sunday dinner. She would look at her phone and smile in a way I had never seen. When I asked if everything was okay with Mark, she laughed a little too fast and said, "Everything is wonderful, Rach. Everything is finally wonderful." I want to be honest with you about something. Part of me knew. Weeks before I had proof, some quiet part of me already knew, the way you know a storm is coming by the smell of the air. But I did not want to be the woman who accused her husband and her best friend with nothing but a hotel receipt and a bad feeling. So I waited. And on October 9th, the waiting ended. Daniel asked me to take his gray jacket to the dry cleaner. He was in the shower, actually singing. I checked the pockets like I had done 1,000 times, and I found a folded receipt from Weller & Sons Jewelers. 1 diamond tennis bracelet, $4,200, dated October 3rd. Chloe's birthday was October 4th. I stood in my kitchen holding that piece of paper, and I could hear him upstairs singing. And on the counter next to me sat the blender he had given me for my birthday, still in its box, because I had not even bothered to open it. Here is what I did not do. I did not scream. I did not run upstairs and throw the receipt in his face. I did not call Chloe and tell her I hoped the bracelet was worth 15 years of friendship. I folded the receipt, put it back exactly where I found it, and took the jacket to the dry cleaner. Because I had learned something in 15 years of balancing books. You never let the other side know what you have found until you have finished counting. That night at dinner, Daniel told me a story about one of his crew backing a mower into a fountain, and I laughed. I actually laughed. He kissed the top of my head and said, "What would I do without you, Rach?" You are about to find out, I thought. But out loud, I said, "Order pizza, probably." The next morning, after his trucks rolled out, I sat down at my desk with a cup of coffee and did what I do best. I went through the numbers. All of them. Not just the strange charges this time. Everything. Going back 3 years. And that is when I found the thing that changed this from heartbreak into war. Daniel had been skimming from the company. Our company. There was a vendor in the system called Ridgeline Supply Partners. We had been paying them for equipment maintenance. $1,400 here, $2,000 there, for almost 2 years. Small enough that I had approved them without blinking, because the invoices looked perfect. Except Ridgeline Supply Partners did not exist. No website, no warehouse, just a shell company registered in Delaware and a bank account. It took me 9 days of quiet digging to confirm whose names were behind that company. Daniel's, and one other name listed right beside his, Chloe's. My husband and my best friend had not just been sleeping together, they had been stealing from me. $89,000 over 22 months, siphoned out of the company. My father mortgaged his retirement to build. They were building their little future with my father's money and my signatures. I sat there for a long time, and then I did something I had not done in weeks. I smiled. Because Daniel made one enormous mistake. He had committed fraud inside a company where every document, every account, and every legal filing ran through me. He had built his escape tunnel through my house. Let me tell you 3 things about our life that Daniel never thought about, because Daniel never read anything before signing it. First, our house was never his. When my father passed away 6 years ago, he left the house to me, not to us, to me, in a trust with my name alone on it. Daniel was living in my house. Second, when we restructured the company for tax reasons back in 2019, our accountant suggested I hold 51% of Greenridge as managing member because I handled all compliance. Daniel signed the papers at the kitchen table during a football game. He held 49% of the company he told everyone was his. Third, the prenup. Daniel's own mother, God rest her, had insisted on it. She was worried I was after her son's future fortune. That prenup said that in the event of infidelity, proven, the guilty party forfeited claims to the other's separate assets. Her mother wrote my insurance policy. I could have kissed her headstone. So here was my position. I owned the house. I controlled the company, and I was holding proof of an affair and an $89,000 embezzlement scheme in a state where that is a felony. The next week, I told Daniel I was visiting my aunt in Cleveland for 2 days. I did go to Cleveland, but not to my aunt. I went to a law firm, the biggest one I could find, and I sat down across from a divorce attorney named Diane Wickfield, a woman in her 60s with gray hair and eyes like a hawk. I laid it all out on her conference table. The receipts, the hotel charges, the fake vendor file, the shell company records with both their names, the prenup, the trust documents. Diane looked through everything for 20 minutes without saying a word. Then she took off her glasses, looked at me, and said the 11 words I will remember for the rest of my life. Mrs. Coleman, in 30 years, I have never seen a cleaner case. We built the plan that afternoon. Diane called it the quiet phase. For the next 6 weeks, I would change nothing. Smile at my husband, have dinner with Chloe if she asked, sign nothing new, and gather everything. Our anniversary party was already planned for December 6th, 15 years, 40 guests. Daniel had insisted on making it big this year. Looking back, I think it was guilt. Diane looked at the date on the invitation and said, "Well, that gives us a deadline." The next 6 weeks were the hardest acting job of my life. I made his coffee every morning. I laughed at his jokes. When Chloe texted me about helping with party decorations, I sent back heart emojis and picked out gold tablecloths with the woman who was sleeping with my husband. She hugged me in the party store. She smelled like the perfume from his shirts. I hugged her back and said, "I do not know what I would do without you, Chloe." Meanwhile, quietly, the machine was moving. Diane's forensic accountant traced every dollar of the Ridgeline scheme and locked it into a report. I made certified copies of everything and moved them to a safe deposit box Daniel did not know existed. As managing member, I opened a new company operating account, told our bank it was a routine year-end restructuring, and routed the December client payments into it. All legal, all mine to do. Daniel never noticed, because Daniel had not looked at the books in 11 years. And then there was Mark, Chloe's husband. He coached Little League. He had helped Daniel put a new roof on our garage 2 summers ago. He deserved better than being the last to know. Diane advised me carefully on this part. I could not risk him confronting them early. So we prepared a package for Mark, too. Sealed, waiting for the right moment. 2 weeks before the party, Daniel came home one night, poured himself a whiskey, and said something that almost broke my composure. He said, "Rach, after the party, we should talk about us, about the future. I have been doing a lot of thinking." He was planning to leave me. After the party, after playing the happy husband in front of 40 people one last time, he was going to walk out to his little exit fund and his new life. They must have had it all mapped out. I looked at my husband of 15 years and said, "Sure, honey, after the party, we will talk about everything." And I meant it. December 6th arrived, cold and clear. Our house glowed. Gold tablecloths, candles, 100 white roses, 40 guests. Daniel's crew chiefs and their wives, our neighbors, his college friends. Chloe arrived in a red dress, wearing, and I swear this is true, the diamond bracelet. She wore it to my anniversary party. She lifted a glass of champagne at me across the room and mouthed the words, "Love you." At 7:30, Daniel tapped his glass with a fork and gave a toast about how behind every great man is a great woman. He had no idea how right he was. At 8 o'clock, I stood up and said I had an anniversary gift for my husband. Everyone gathered in the living room. Daniel sat in his armchair, glowing with whiskey and attention, and I handed him a large box wrapped in gold paper. He grinned at the crowd and said, "If this is another blender, we are getting divorced." Everyone laughed. "Almost, honey," I said. Everyone laughed again. He opened the box. On top was a framed photo of our wedding day. He smiled and held it up, and the guest said, "Aww." Under the photo was a green folder. He opened it, still smiling, and I watched 15 years of color drain out of his face in about 4 seconds. The first page was the Ridgeline Supply Partners Company registration, his name, Chloe's name, highlighted in yellow. Under it, the forensic accounting report. Under that, the hotel receipts. And at the very bottom, in a red envelope, divorce papers, already drafted. The room had gone completely silent. Daniel's hands were shaking. He looked up at me and whispered, "Rachel, what is this?" And I said, calmly, in front of 40 guests, "It is everything you and Chloe built together, sweetheart. I thought you would want to celebrate it tonight, since you were planning to tell me after the party anyway." Every head in the room turned to Chloe. She had gone white as the tablecloths. Mark stood beside her, confused, looking between her and Daniel. I walked over and handed Mark a sealed envelope. "Mark," I said quietly, "I am so sorry. You deserve to know at the same time I did." Chloe grabbed his arm and said, "Mark, do not. It is not. She is lying." Mark opened the envelope. He read for maybe 10 seconds. Then he looked at the bracelet on her wrist, set the papers on the table, took off his wedding ring, placed it next to them, and walked out of my house without a single word. The door did not even slam. Somehow, that was worse. Daniel stood up, knocking the folder to the floor, papers scattering everywhere, and started saying my name over and over. "Rachel! Rachel! Listen! We can talk about this." I stepped past him and opened the front door. Diane Whitfield was standing on my porch in the cold, right on schedule, holding her briefcase. "Daniel," I said, "this is my attorney. You will be dealing with her from now on. You have until Sunday to collect your things from my house." He said, "Your house?" And Diane smiled and said, "Oh, Mr. Coleman, you really should read what you sign." You want to know what the guests did? Nothing. Nobody defended him. His own crew chief, Tony, picked up his coat, shook my hand on the way out, and said, "Ma'am, my crew works for whoever signs the checks." "That would be me," I said. "See you Monday," he said. The months after moved fast. Faced with the fraud report, Daniel's lawyer folded almost immediately. Prosecution was on the table, and everyone knew it. In the settlement, Daniel surrendered his 49% of Greenridge in exchange for me not pressing criminal charges. The prenup's infidelity clause wiped out the rest. He walked away from 15 years with his truck, his clothes, and a court order to repay the $89,000 to me in monthly installments for 6 years. Every month, a payment arrives with his name on it. I donate every cent to a scholarship fund at the college where my father taught night classes. It is called the Robert Hayes Memorial Fund. Daniel is funding a scholarship in the name of the man whose money he stole. He knows it too. I made sure the thank you letters go to his new address. And Chloe? Mark's divorce was fast and brutal. She lost the house 4 doors down. She and Daniel tried to make it work, the two of them, alone at last with no money and nothing left to hide. It lasted 7 weeks. I heard they screamed at each other in the parking lot of a diner about who ruined whose life. I think the answer is that they were perfect for each other. She sold the bracelet, by the way. The pawn shop gave her $900 for it. Greenridge Landscaping had its best year ever this year. Turns out the engine was never the problem. The company runs quieter now, cleaner. And every contract we sign, I think about my father and the loan he took out against his own future because he believed in mine. People in town still ask me if I hate them, and honestly, I do not. Hate is heavy, and I have carried enough. What I feel is something better. Peace. The kind of peace that comes from knowing I never screamed, never begged, never broke. I just did what I have always done. I kept the books. And in the end, every account was settled. So if you are out there right now, holding your own folded receipt, wondering what to do, let me tell you what I learned. Do not make noise. Make copies. Because the quiet ones do not get mad. We get everything. If this story held you until the end, subscribe to Vermilion Veil. There is a new story every single day, and behind every veil, the truth is waiting to burn.